and welcome to the Relationship Hub. I'm Michaela, and today I'm joined by Issy and Aled Power, who are here to tell us their relationship story. And I'm particularly excited to hear from them because they are one of the couples who decided they would go ahead with their wedding during lockdown. And often when people think about the wedding day, you hear people saying, oh, make sure it's the day that you always dreamt of and it's just as you want it to be. But sometimes it ends up being a day that other people want, or society says it ought to have these elements. And actually, Aled and Issy's story kind of spins a lot of that on its head. So really looking forward to hearing about that. Aled is a primary school teacher. He's originally from Newport. Issy is a first-year law student and from Hereford, and that's where they live now. So Aled and Issy, thank you so much for joining me on the Relationship Hub. It's really lovely to have you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So I love doing this because I love hearing stories from other people about what life's really like for them and what's gone on for them. And it's a great way of demonstrating what relationships look like. And we all want to learn, don't we, from each other. So I'm looking forward to learning something from you two both as well today. So let's just start with a little kind of brief synopsis of how you met.
Yeah, sure. So we essentially met in Cyprus, actually, in 2017. And before that, I'd been living in Cardiff and was part of a church there, and you'd been part of a church in Hereford. And we both ended up being part of this project that was started in Cyprus. So we both moved over there at the same time in 2017, ended up just living in the same house with a bunch of other people.
Was it kind of, love at first sight? Was it like, yes, this is the one, or?
Sure. We became really good friends, which was great. But there was nothing there. And then
say it how it is, Issy,
And, well, basically, one day I saw Aled wearing some new skinny jeans that I'd never seen him wear before, and then my eyes were opened. Our head over heels. So. But yeah, we were living under the same roof for a year and a half and had absolutely no interest in one another.
But I think because we didn't have any interest, like romantically at that time, it just enabled us to become really good, close friends. Yeah. And then after a year and a half in Cyprus, you were due to be coming back. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so my timing wasn't great because I asked you out then about a month before you were due to fly back to the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah, not ideal timing then, it doesn't sound, Aled.
No, so then we did long distance for just under a year and a half then. So, yeah.
That must have been tough. Was long distance tough, or did you, how did you, obviously you had a good friendship that you'd established, so there was a really good starting point, but how did you manage doing a year and a half of long distance? That can't have been easy.
Mm-hmm. I think because, like I said, we knew each other really well already. So I don't think we felt like we were really missing out. I didn't feel like we were missing out on the fun getting to know you stage, those parts of relationship, because we already had such a great relationship anyway. And I think we knew quite early on when we started dating, I think we knew that we were very serious about it and we were very committed to one another. So yeah, I think we knew that we were able to make that commitment of being long distance.
And we also had a time frame in mind, so we knew that come a certain point after about a year, just over a year, that I would be coming back. So we kind of had an end goal. Yeah. We just had to make it to that point.
Yeah. It wasn't this endless time of you being away and when will we ever meet anyway kind of feeling about it. So when did you actually get engaged then? When did you know? And how did you know? I'm always interested. I often ask couples, how do you know this is the one? What was so when did you get engaged and how did you know that the other person was the one for you?
Well, it was on one of Izzy's holidays out to see me in Cyprus that we got engaged at a place called Aphrodite's Rock. It's a beach on the coast there. So, yeah, I don't know, were you expecting it at that stage?
No, I was not expecting it. I started going on, basically we're on this beautiful rock, the sun is setting, Aled's planned this perfect romantic moment, And I just, for some reason, started going on a political rant about different social issues. So the like romantic was dying.
I was watching the sunset slowly disappearing, waiting for Izzy to pause for breath so I could get my back and watch the sun disappear.
Yes, so I definitely did not pick up on the signals, even though they were very much there. But
I can't say I was fully listening to all of your political points.
The rant that she was, giving you at that point.
I don't know in terms of how we knew. I think, like I said, like just at the beginning of our relationship, we had already, lived together, been part of this project in a foreign country. So, a few tough times that we had like been together through that. So I think we just knew each other's characters really well. And I think once the attraction was there, I think we knew that was the person that like I could always be with. So, like very early on, that's kind of what we were heading to.
And from those initial first dates on the donkey farm in Cyprus and some of those places, we had a lot of those kind of big conversations about where we were going. Did we share the same kind of vision, the same values? So we were kind of, I think from almost day one, we were kind of committed to we're going. Wherever we're going together.
Yeah.
It's almost like, it's something I call the forever conversation, that you have this conversation about the future and what it might hold. And I think, as you say, establishing some of those values is a really kind of crucial part of actually thinking about the future. I love the fact as well that so much of where things began was about friendship, and that was the kind of foundation. And as you said, Issy, once the attraction was there, it kind of like things sort of fell into place for you, essentially, by the sounds of it. Mm-hmm. So obviously, that you're on the same path. You've got this beautiful moment that was almost usurped by political ranting on Issy's part. But presumably you said yes at this point. So how long did it take then for you to decide, okay, when should we get married? How long after was the date set for your marriage? And did you end up getting married on the date you'd planned? How did that all work in with lockdown and so on?
So we got engaged in the November 2019, and we knew that Aled would be coming back to the UK the following July. So we had then planned that we would get married that summer once he had come back to the UK. And we did get married on our original date, because I think for us, like doing long distance, like one thing that's really helpful is when you have an end goal, and something that you're working towards. So for us, that was our wedding day. There was about 6 weeks between Aled moving back to the UK and our wedding day. So despite all the times where things were questioning that and whether we would be able to get married when we had planned, that was what we were.
We were quite lucky in terms of delays and things with flights. I think there was maybe a week or two delay with coronavirus, but I was able to come back at more or less the time we'd originally planned.
So
6 weeks. Sorry, 6 weeks though is not very long before your wedding. And so when was the wedding? What was the date of your wedding?
The 10th of September.
Okay, so that feels like a very small time frame. Most people will be thinking, how on earth could you be returning back 6 weeks before your wedding day? What did you think about that, Issy?
I think hindsight is such a wonderful and interesting thing. And I just cannot imagine if we did do our big wedding that we had originally planned. I just can't imagine how stressful those 6 weeks would have been. It would have been awful. But it was just such great timing, because in August was when we had things were opening up a little bit again, and there was the Eat Out to help out and all of that stuff. So we actually had a really great 6 weeks, because it prepared us really well for being married, because we did have time to be able to be with family after Aled had been away for so long, and time to start preparing our home and just catching up on time that we had lost. So it was, there wasn't anything it didn't feel like a short amount of time. It didn't feel like we were rushing, or it just, it was a nice time, really. We were very fortunate.
Yeah. And in terms of the wedding date, we'd always said the 10th of September. And we were grateful that we were able to keep that date, even though it looked very different in the end to what we initially thought it was going to look like. Lots of things changed in between, but the date was one thing that did remain the same.
Yeah.
So what was your wedding day? How had you planned it originally, and how different was it? And tell me about how you felt as that process adjusted and became something perhaps other than you had originally planned.
So yeah, I'm that type of person. Well, I'm a planner anyway, and I, have a very specific image in my head, and I want it to look exactly like that. So I'm that person that has been planning their wedding since they were like 5 or 6. So I had a very clear picture. I already had like loads of images on Pinterest saved of all these different ideas, table decorations and stuff. And I think that's what I thought I wanted until getting engaged, and then actually starting to make those plans happen and realizing just how stressful it was. And like, it's just crazy the amount of things that you have to think about. And I very quickly, once I started the planning process, really struggled with it, because I felt like I needed to take everyone's opinions on board, and I need to listen to people who have already got married and take their advice, and my original dream picture was slowly fading because I'm busy trying to please everyone else and trying to do things that are within our budget, and it just
and you were also doing a lot of that on your own at this point, because I was still in Cyprus, loving life.
You were having a lovely time away, weren't you, Aled?
So it was, it was really hard. And there were many points where I just said, why don't we just elope and just go and do something small and just forget about this whole, circus. But then when the pandemic hit, it was a bit difficult for a couple of months, because we just didn't know, everyone, we didn't know how long it was going to go on for. We didn't know, by September what the situation was going to be. So we're still holding on, still trying to make plans. But in the back of our minds thinking, this might all just go out the window. So it was really hard trying to decide, what is the right thing to do? What should we, be doing? Should we continue to, plan for this big thing and spend money on that? Or should we just, let it all go? And it became quite difficult, because again, in that time of being engaged, you want to enjoy that process. You want to enjoy
of course.
The planning process with your friends, your family. And now I wasn't around my friends' family because I'm in lockdown. I'm not with my fiance, and I don't know if this wedding is going to happen. So that whole process was just, became not enjoyable at all.
That's not what you'd been dreaming about at the age of 5 or 6.
Exactly. So there came a point where we kind of had to make a decision. We knew other people that were getting married at a similar time, and they were making a decision to postpone or cancel. And we felt like, okay, now is the time. I think that was about 4 months perhaps before the wedding.
There's a point at which the wedding venue kind of called us and was saying, just to let you know, everyone else this year has cancelled. You're the only people who haven't.
Right. Yeah. Okay, there might be a little bit of a message here for us,
And so, so we made the decision to cancel those plans. We still had it, our mindset on getting married that day, but just no idea then what it was actually going to look like. But once we did cancel those plans, all of that stress just lifted. And I think, well, at first it was a bit sad, and, it's like, oh, but that was my dream. And it felt like a bit of a blow. But then actually, I think once maybe the emotion had died down a bit, it's like, this is great, because now we have this opportunity to do whatever we want to do, because we don't have no one else can really tell us what to do because we're in a situation that they haven't been in before.
Yeah.
So it just I think we soon realized that we had a really great opportunity.
Yeah.
And, we could just do what we wanted for this day and make it personal to us. And so, yeah, and then we went on the journey then of, again, week after week, things are changing. You can have 30 people, or then it was 15 people and back to 30 and this, that, and the next thing. And so it was a bit of a roller coaster, but I think once we had let go of that big wedding,
Yes,
it was we were just there for the ride then, and we were just enjoying the kind of things that were thrown our way. We kind of just, I don't know, for some reason, I think people found it strange how much we were just enjoying the process and just laughing.
Yeah.
All the
Aled, would you, obviously Issy's talked about this dream wedding when she was 5 or 6, and it's that kind of almost, people expect that the girl has an imagination about what their wedding day will be like and the dress and all those sorts of things. Did you have any particular desires or dreams or thoughts about your wedding day, and what were your priorities before all of lockdown? What had you ever imagined what that might be like, or maybe once you got engaged to Issy, did you have something in mind that you would like?
Yeah, it's strange because I have always kind of prided myself on being quite a flexible, relaxed, laid-back person. So in my head, I didn't think I did particularly have an image of everything had to be a certain way. But then I think I realised that maybe I subconsciously did when I found out that it wasn't happening.
Yes.
I think you'd been on a bit of a journey, maybe preparing yourself for maybe a few weeks about the fact that it wasn't going to look like we thought. Mm. And I think I was choosing to remain slightly blind, blindly optimistic, and also
or keep ignoring it and it'll sort itself out. I'll just,
slightly separate from the situation in the UK, I guess, to a degree, and being it'll be okay. So then when we did make that decision that no, it's not going to look anything like we initially thought, it did come as a bit of but I've had this, even if it's a subconscious image of what things are going to look like. And I think there was about probably a week or two process of kind of letting go and accepting the fact that it's not going to look like that, and kind of reframing things to embrace the fact that it was going to look completely different. But as you say, once, I got over that initial kind of week of accepting that, I think, I think also for you, I could see just how much lighter you were having made that decision because you were shouldering the planning, really.
Yeah.
So I could see the difference that made to you. And we were just, able from then out to enjoy the process a lot more and to relax a lot more.
I'm interested actually that you said, Issy, and this is something I said in my introduction, that this, obviously you had a dream of what the wedding would be like, and Aled, you did as well, perhaps subconsciously have an idea of what this wedding would look like. And then there was that sense of pressure and people saying it needs to be this way or it needs to be that way. And partly you were feeling like perhaps, that's how it ought to be. And then you said, obviously, when all of those things were taken from you, and then you could actually really think about the day you wanted. So almost everything has been turned on its head for you. So what did the day look like? Tell us about the day, and how was it? What happened? Did you wear the dress? Did you walk down the aisle? Or what was the day like for you? And how many people were there? That's the other. Was it 15 at that point, or was it 30?
25.
So you had the cap of 30 at that point in September. Yeah.
Yeah, on the day, I went to my friend's house and to get ready and do all of that. I actually got a parking ticket,
oh dear.
Day, because I think in the morning I was just so excited, parked my car, got out, went to my friend's house, and my dad came to pick me up to take me to the place where we were getting married, holding this parking fine. Just the first thing he said to me, I'm dressed, ready to go. And before saying, you look amazing, he's like, you got a parking fine.
Not such a great way to start.
I feel like it's such a typical dad kind of move. But yeah, so we had like a legal, like the official legal wedding, which we were only allowed, 8 people, but we managed to sneak in 9. So that was just our parents and our siblings.
All with social distancing and masks.
Yeah, so we did that because like we had to do that to actually be legally married. But then we went to a restaurant kind of place out in the countryside somewhere. And we then had another ceremony where we had more people. So that's where we had 25 people. And then we had more of a personal ceremony where we were able to we did our vows and our rings, and like we had a song that was like kind of more personal to us, and we had friends of ours, our pastors who were the ones that married us. So we wanted to do that as well as just the legal ceremony, because we wanted, like, that was to us like where we feel like we did get married, because the legal thing is quite, it's very quick, like it only lasts about 5 minutes. And, very just formal. But we were able to then create this ceremony like in the way that we wanted it to, how long we wanted it to be. And it was very intimate. Like we just had, our family and some friends there. And it was great knowing that like everyone there knows us really, really well. And we know that everyone in this room is like fully behind us in what we're doing, like in the vows that we're making. And like they have like 100% like support for us. So whereas I think when you have a bigger wedding and there's, some distant cousin who doesn't actually really know you. But it was like everyone that's here knows our journey. They know our journey of long distance. They know the journey of planning the wedding. And now they're here and like are fully with us. So I think like for me that was just really special.
People were great, people were so generous, and even the people who weren't able to make that then were just very understanding and the whole situation. So
yeah, we were so blown back. I think we were preparing for a lot more, a lot of people being offended or hurt that they weren't invited, and but yeah, everyone was so understanding. And which was great. Like it was just such an easy, relaxing time, really.
Yeah, and we could just really enjoy the day. Some people I know who've had like big weddings say just what a rush it is trying to speak to everyone, get around everyone. Yes. Because we had so few people, we were able to spend this quality time chatting with everyone who was there. And enjoy the day.
Yeah. So when you said your promises to each other, as you say, you had the legal part, which for you is the sort of ticking the box, and it's important that you do tick that box. And then the actual ceremony, with your vows, were they ones that you wrote yourself? How did it feel saying those vows to each other? I mean, do you think, the number of people had any bearing on how that felt? Because some people might feel that, you've got loads of people in the church or something, or registry office, or wherever you're choosing. And, all these people are watching you. And obviously you only had that much smaller number. Do you think there was any significance in that? And how did that feel?
I think, like, for me, it just made that moment of exchanging the vows just so much more powerful. Because I think, like, my default is to think about everyone else sometimes, and making sure that I'm presenting the best like version of myself to them. And I think if we had done our vows in front of lots and lots of people, I think I'd be too busy thinking about how I was saying it, and if people thought that I was saying it like properly, or if I was being emotional enough or not, and or too emotional, and I'd be too worried about what I was looking like and how I was saying it, rather than focusing on the words itself. And I think because we just took away so much of that pressure and so much of just the kind of any performance aspect about it, I was just really able to be in the moment and actually like feel the weight of what I was saying. and being able to like fully be behind the words that I'm saying, and just enjoy that, like that whole process of saying those vows.
Yeah. And in terms of, you asked about, say, the wedding dress, you had a great dress, but it wasn't a wedding dress. And in terms of like the walk down the aisle, there wasn't like a walk down the aisle. And there's a sense in which that would have all been great.
Yeah.
I know you'd have loved that.
Because that feels like something. Some people think that's a good thing, because some people feel that the walking down the aisle bit is a bit patriarchal. It depends on your viewpoint. Because in one respect, two people are both leaving their families to become one, as it were. But some people might think that's actually a bonus, not having to do the aisle bit, and others would feel that they've really missed out. I mean, that is quite a different kind of way of doing things.
Yeah. I think like my dad is quite maybe quite shy or private anyway, so he doesn't like the attention on him to start with. So I think he was like slightly relieved. But we walked down together, and I don't know, there wasn't a feeling that I was missing out on anything at any point in the day. Like I didn't feel like I lost anything, or didn't get what I wanted to. Like I wouldn't change anything.
I don't think it's that one was like better than the other in terms of that. I think it's just different, and bonuses of, I guess, the way that we ended up doing things was that it was just that more intimate affair, relaxed, like you say, you could just enjoy those moments by moments, rather than feeling that pressure maybe.
And I think even what you were saying about spending time with, like actually being able to spend time with our guests, we were also able to spend time together on the day, where it's like, again, I know of couples that other than when they're standing there in front of everyone, they then don't really see each other at all for the rest of the day, because they're off doing different things. So, but we were able to do everything together through that day. And I think like walking down the aisle, just from start to finish, was entirely about us.
That sounds lovely as well. I just think, I think that sounds really beautiful. I think I'd find that quite emotional, actually, seeing that, because there's something about, it's like from the very moment we start kind of entering into this space, we are saying we are committed, we are together, we are doing this together, this is us. And I actually really like that. I think it sounds amazing.
And then we did have a cake, which reminds me actually, because 2 weeks before the wedding, we still didn't know where that was going to take place. We changed the plan so many times that 2 weeks before the wedding, when you were talking to the person who was going to make this cake, which again wasn't hugely traditional, and asking where should she take the cake. Like,
don't know yet.
No idea. But plans had changed so many times that we were just used to it by that stage. So even
water off a duck's back kind of thing, where
2 weeks before, we was just somehow it'll work, and it all came together.
Yeah, it did.
And so did you get the cake in the right place at the right time? Did that all go smoothly?
Yes. Well, the night before, she did phone me about 8 o'clock before, saying that because we were having a white chocolate cake, and she was saying how the cake, for some reason, it just wasn't working, and she was completely freaking out that she wasn't.
This was the night before.
Yeah. So she was completely freak out, and I thought she was going to cry. She was like, I've never had to call a bride like the night before the wedding.
Wow.
I've tried it 4 times and it will not work. And I was like, that's fine. It's like, you knew 2 weeks ago that we didn't even have a venue. Like, I'm really not bothered about like how this cake is gonna, if we'll have it or if we won't, and if we do, what it's gonna be like. Like, I was like, you are a cake maker. I trust you more than myself. So whatever you produce, I know will be great. So yeah, I think we were just kind of almost enjoying and just like laughing at those moments, at that point.
And so really the wedding, it was entirely about what you were promising one another that day, wasn't it? And it's important to celebrate these things, which you've been able to do. But so, you know, sometimes there's that shift of focus. And I love the fact that you talked about that you enjoyed the 6 weeks beforehand, that it wasn't stressful and that you could embrace that time and be together so much. And somehow, you know, that's what married life is about, isn't it? It's the beginning of that life together, and almost there can sometimes be, I'm not saying in every situation, but there can sometimes be so much pressure, but it feels like the pressure was lifted. And the fact that you didn't even wear a traditional wedding dress, which I gather, am I right in thinking you do actually have a wedding dress, but you didn't choose to wear it in the end?
I've seen this wedding dress.
No,
I've heard about
You've not
it.
seen it?
No, it's in a box under the bed. No, I mean, I could have done, and like that would have been absolutely fine. I think just, I don't know, again, I just was enjoying the feeling of just how relaxed it was. And
we kind of were just there in our leather jackets and
Your leather jackets, I love that.
Relaxed.
Yeah.
And it just felt like somehow it was more us somehow.
Yeah, it was. So I think like with the dress, it was, I don't know, I'm not sure really why I didn't. It didn't feel like that's what I wanted to do in the moment. And I think I thought I have quite, like, I think reasonably good legs. So I wanted to wear this dress so that I could actually, it's like, oh, I like my legs. So,
and again, this comes back to you saying that this wedding, although you had in your mind's eye what your wedding day would look like, when it was changing and you suddenly are thinking, okay, I'm going to do it differently. And it's almost as though you were so liberated from those pressures that you literally just did everything just as you wanted, even to the point of saying, you know, I'm going to wear a different kind of dress. We're wearing leather jackets. This is about us. And it sounds as though it really reflected who you both are and, you know, what was important to you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, like I've said before, that when you get engaged, you're planning a wedding, everyone says, you know, have whatever you want, you know, you can have it exactly how you like, do what you want, but then they proceed to tell you all the ways in which they think you should have it. It sound like this is what I want. So it just like eliminated all of that, and the pressures of trying to please, you know, parents and friends and, you know, everyone, worrying about what people think. I think we just went so far the other way, and just did entirely what we wanted. We were able to just listen to, like, we made a playlist of all our favorite songs that weren't even that like wedding-y at all. Like, we had lots of Bruce Springsteen songs and stuff that we like loved. We were like, oh, it's our day, we want to listen to Bruce Springsteen, we will.
That's what we'll do, yeah, definitely. So in hindsight, knowing what you now know, and, you know, let's think back to that sort of 5-year-old, the subconscious kind of dream that you had, Aled, maybe, you know, that idea of what the wedding day would be like, and then the actual reality of the day itself. Which would you choose if you could choose either? Again, obviously you had to do a lockdown style wedding or postpone it, and you chose to have it. What would you choose?
I think it is tough because they are just so different. And if we'd had a big wedding, like, you know, we'd originally planned, you know, I'm sure that would have been great.
Yeah.
But as it is, the small, you know, low key one we had was great. And you know, there's not, other than perhaps it would have been nice, there'd have been a few more people, you know, we'd have loved to have been able to invite, but couldn't. But there's nothing much I'd really change about it.
No. Yeah, I think other than obviously we had a limit on numbers, but if we could have had like 10 more, then we would have done. But other than that, And
definitely, you know, it saved a lot on the finance side.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, that must have made a big difference to you, actually. I mean, is that obviously big savings on things you haven't paid for, and has that helped as you're starting married life? I mean, presumably you can put that money into other things.
Yeah, I think it was nice because, well, I mean, we did make money off our wedding, so we were given
that doesn't happen often.
Generous.
And we were so blessed. But I think it meant that before, you know, we're trying to work within a budget and And in terms of like setting up our home, we're just getting the things that we, absolutely need. But it just meant that we were then able to get some things that was like, oh, we would like that.
Especially at a time like this with so much uncertainty with jobs and things as well. It kind of, I guess, took some of that pressure off.
Yeah. So yeah, we were so blessed by that. But it definitely took the pressure off, being up late at night with a calculator, trying to work out how we're going to pay for it all.
Or pay afterwards, because some people start, married life and they've got debts to pay off, the wedding stuff as well. Yeah. So what would you say has been, there's two things really. I think one would be, what would you say was made your day particularly special? What about that small, intimate, stripped back style wedding, the naked wedding, if you like, where you didn't have all the frippery, there was a really sort of reduced concentration of wedding going on? What would you say was perhaps one of the most poignant moments for you? And what would you say to other people who are thinking about planning a wedding going forward?
I think that kind of the most significant part for me was probably the vows, just that whole like feeling of that moment, and how to just feel so special. And like I said, just knowing that you had like everyone in that room was 100% for us and behind us. And I think even actually when we first walked into the room and just seeing everyone there, and like that just really hit me, because I was like, wow, I know that everyone here really loves us, and they're so excited for this. Whereas I think if I had walked into a huge room with loads of people, I wouldn't have had maybe that same feeling. So I think for me, that was like the most powerful part, was just like really being able to like fully be behind what I'm saying, actually thinking about what I'm saying in the vows. And
Aled,
what would you say, Aled, would be for you?
I think similarly. I think just that feeling, I just remember being up there, saying, our vows, and just turning and just seeing, a relatively small group, but all the people who, friends, family.
The biggest supporters and fans there, basically. Because I know what you mean. You said earlier, didn't you, about you sometimes have people you feel obliged to almost to invite. And it's not that you mind them being there as such, but or there might be some people feel obliged to invite and would really rather not have them there. So, Aled, as you say, you're looking around this room and they're like, yes, we're for you.
Yeah, and just the way we were able to put our own kind of maybe slightly more authentic flavour on things because of just the nature of it. It felt like it was our wedding rather than just like one we've seen before. It felt like, okay, this is
and advice then to other brides and grooms to be, what would you say?
I would absolutely recommend it. And I think it's I think that like whatever they want to do, I would just really say just have whatever you want. So whether that is big or small, just have what you want. But like I think for a lot of people who feel like they do need to have a big wedding, I would just really encourage them that they don't need to. I think like I wouldn't change anything. And I think I'm just amazed that there aren't more people that aren't doing that. I think now, like perhaps we will see more people doing micro weddings, and I hope we do. And I like really look forward to, like, if we go to friends' weddings who do have a micro wedding, just seeing how they like create that and how they make that their own, and how that feels. But I would definitely recommend it for sure.
I think one of the things in that 6 weeks, so probably first bit of advice would be don't move back to the country just 6 weeks before the wedding. But it was great that in that time, so often the focus is all about the day itself. But we were really able to have like some great discussions about and making like plans for married life and creating a marriage rather than just having all the focus on this one day. We were able to kind of balance that. So yes, thinking about the day, but also we were able to, I think, just enjoy that time and kind of start looking ahead, planning for married life. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's interesting saying, well, perhaps this will be, the catalyst for change, that lockdown, the pandemic will be the beginning of something where there's sort of small, intimate, micro, stripped back, naked wedding, if you like, will be sort of kick-started through this. And actually, people may still just have the big weddings. They may decide to have a smaller wedding, but ultimately your message is have the wedding that you really, really want, not that you think you really want, but the one that actually reflects you.
Yeah, and I think the whole, I hope, not that I would have thought this way maybe a year ago, but I hope this whole season, one of the good things that it does open things up, that hopefully people will feel less pressure maybe that they have to have a wedding that looks a certain way, that it's just, that it's just opened things up a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Issy and Aled, thank you so much for sharing your story. I just think it sounds amazing. I would have loved to have joined you at your wedding, but that wouldn't have been appropriate because you had too many already, or you had your maximum number. But, your story is an inspiration. And, and I really do hope it does kickstart something new, that they're not just your wedding, but all the different people that said, yes, we're going to get married during lockdown because actually we want to be married. We want to start married life together. And actually there will be this shift in thinking. So, brilliant story. Thank you so much. And perhaps another relationship hub, in a year's time, you can tell us how it's all been going and whether you actually get your wedding dress out and whether you see it, Aled. I mean, we're all tantalised by the fact you've not seen the actual dress. So anyway, thank you so much. And see you again next time, Aled and Issy. Thank you so much for joining me on the Relationship Hub. I'm sure you've been inspired by their story. This is what the Relationship Hub is all about. It's hearing other people's stories, real life stories, to inspire ourselves, to learn, to grow. So please do obviously subscribe to the Relationship Hub. Please like this episode, and I look forward to seeing you for another episode of the Relationship Hub.